Good evening and welcome back to the public portion of the Committee of the Whole meeting for Wednesday, March 13th, 2024, and we are resuming at 6:45. We have a delegation tonight, and we have Staff Sergeant Mark Wilgosh and Sergeant Salmon here. And Staff Sergeant, it's good to see you again. I look forward to your presentation. I really enjoyed reading through the information today. It was, as usual, very clearly presented, and it told a really good story of how things are going here. And just before you even get started, I am just so impressed with the habitual offender management program. That is something that just always captures my attention. So thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship. For this presentation, all of my comments will be through the CAO to the Chair and the rest of Council for ease of reference. Again, thank you for allowing me to come before you tonight to present our Q3 report and a bit of an update as far as where we are with our policing priorities this year and what we're seeing in the community as a result of our efforts. As you alluded to, our habitual offender management program is part of our first priority, which deals with our property crimes, that being the reduction of theft of vehicles, theft from motor vehicles, and break-in enters. Throughout the Q3, we were monitoring 13 habitual offenders. So that's down, I think, from a high of about 18 or 19 at one point in time. 8 of those offenders we're monitoring are within the town of Strathmore, and throughout Q3, 60 checks were conducted. I can tell you that the program has been seeing some vast success, especially in our rural areas out in the Rocky View County area. We're seeing lowering crime numbers as far as break-in enters and theft of vehicles in that area, as well as within the town of Strathmore proper. We're noticing that some of our offenders that are being monitored are either leaving the area, completing their period of time while they're on conditions without issue, or some of them have even pled guilty to get off of conditions. So that way we're not continually monitoring them. Regardless, we're happy to say that for the most part, through our checks, that our persons that we're monitoring have been in compliance with their release conditions, which is a very positive sign. Persons who move off of our habitual offender management program move into our persons of interest program. Again, we're aware of people who are in our community where their propensities may have been at one point in time, and again, to be around to ensure that we're maintaining communication, to ensure that they're continuing to live a law-abiding lifestyle. And at times, if necessary, we are also in a position to help engage them with some social services to help keep them on the right path. Our security screw program remains in effect. In fact, one of the dealerships here in town ran out and just started to buy their own, and that's become a standard item that they install on their new vehicles, which is something that's positive. They've seen a lot of turnover. In fact, I had to purchase another 800 of them just for the area. Again, we've seen a lot of uptake, and we are seeing some decreasing patterns with theft of license plates, hopefully in part as a result. But again, that option is still free within Strathmore. As far as our break-in enters are concerned, one of our measurable areas, I've given you the graphics here again, where you see the red line, that's our historical highs. The blue lines are historical lows. And as you can see in Q3 or even Q1 through 3, we're within the norms. And in fact, we're a little bit low in Q3. For theft of motor vehicles, we did see a bit of an upturn in Q3. And that was as a result of a couple of offenders that moved into our community that were either stealing vehicles or attempting to steal vehicles. They weren't really very proficient at it, but again, it gets scored as an attempt in that crime series. As a result, we rolled out a bait vehicle program within the community to see if that would yield some results. Unfortunately, I think they were apprehended in a stolen vehicle outside of our area and are no longer here. So we did get a chance to see if the bait vehicle worked, but at the end of the day, they're not in our community and they were facing charges in other jurisdictions. And as far as I'm concerned, or I'm aware, they haven't returned. But again, that's how 2 people moving in our community can kind of boost up some of the crime stats just by their presence in our community. So we were aware of them quite quickly. We implemented some measures to try and deal with their impact on the community. But as I said, they ended up leaving the community and they haven't returned. Our theft from motor vehicles, as you can see, has decreased as well. So we're close to our historical lows, again, which is another positive sign. I've included a little bit of detail here as far as the break-in enters. I think Q3 we only had 2 within the community. One was actually unfounded, to be honest. But again, the other one is a matter that was still under investigation. I've included some details there for you as far as that might be slightly different from past reporting, but theft of vehicle by type. Predominantly, we're seeing that pickup trucks are mainly targeted in our area. Of the 13 thefts that occurred in quarter 3, 9 of the vehicles were recovered. 4 of them were recovered in Calgary. In one case, we can say that we laid charges of one of the thefts, and 3 of those thefts were crimes of opportunity. So again, leaving vehicles left unattended with keys in them or running, and again, a crime of opportunity that an offender happened to capitalize. Again, theft of motor vehicles, 3 were crimes of opportunity. There were no catalytic converter thefts this quarter, although typically we start seeing those in quarter 1 of the next year, when in the spring, when people are starting to take out the RVs and they're noticing that perhaps the storage lots have been entered. 2 of them were instances where valuables were left in plain sight, or valuable items were in plain sight. That's part of the education side of things, and members try to educate the public to ensure that you're not leaving valuables in your vehicle, you're parking in well-lit areas, and again, you're leaving them secure. Overall, our numbers for quarter 3 are below our historical averages. Just looking at property crimes for the months of January, February, which is most of quarter 4 for us, overall in those areas, for property crimes, we're down 26%. So we've seen even a further dip, for at least for the 2/3 of quarter 4. So I'll have more for you in the coming months once the quarter 4 and year-end report is ready. So we are seeing that downward trend. Road safety, our efforts remain in place through check stops and regular enforcement. I've given the numbers through the report. What we've seen as a bit of a trend is our reportable collisions have come down, but we've seen a slight increase in injury collisions. If we jump forward a few slides there's a few photos of one collision actually that happened behind the co-op on Highway 1 headed westbound. That crash was as a result of an impaired driver that drifted off the road and ended up striking a power box and knocking it off of its moorings, as well as I believe a TELUS and a Shaw Cable Internet demarc that was there, which caused a bunch of damage. You can see what the result of the vehicle looked like. Fortunately, the driver wasn't too seriously injured, but charges did result out of this instance, as well as immediate roadside sanction as well. Impaired driving, it's still a bit of an issue for us. Our members are issuing more immediate roadside sanctions. In fact, as you see in the report there, just between January 28th and January 1st alone, there were 7 drivers that were issued immediate roadside sanctions just through the regular patrols of our members. So that's going to be something we're going to continue to work on. But scrolling back, again, I've given you a number of graphics as far as where collision rates are concerned, and I've given some representation there about what percentage of the collisions that we're seeing, what are the contributing causes. Most of them in the town of Strathmore are intersection offenses, where you see that the other part of the pie, closer down if you look at where the photos of the crash was, those are instances where people are striking fixed objects, hitting parked cars, backing into parked cars, crashes of that nature. So that's where we're seeing a lot of them in town, very low speed type of collisions. So that's making up pretty well the majority of what our collisions are here in town. Overall, our roads are safe, and we're looking forward to having continued downward trends to meet or exceed our averages as we sought out at the beginning of the year. Community engagement is something we place a high focus on. Fortunately, one of our members, he was over at the junior high school, and he was approached by some of our young female students as far as helping him look a little more glamorous, and he volunteered. So there he is with some pink fingernails. He's a brave man, because he actually submitted this with the daily report, and knowing that I would probably put in our quarterly report. But again, that's some of the representative of what our members are doing in our schools and in the community. Other community events, Sergeant Salmon and myself, we attended the opening of Brave Park, along with, your worship, as well as our MLA for the area. Halloween, our members were out and about handing out candy. In fact, I think it was one of the town employees that snapped these photos here with one of our members who happened to be out handing out candy during Halloween. Again, our members were out generally patrolling, but we made sure that each of the police cars had a bag of candy in case they encountered some of the kids around town and throughout our general area. Remembrance Day, we had some strong participation both in town and out of town in our rural areas as well. And as you see through our other initiatives, they remain in place. Our capture program is still active. I want to encourage everyone who's able to sign up. It's very helpful and may may prove useful at some point in time if a crime is committed close to these people's houses. It helps us to obtain video surveillance in a timely manner. And just again to reiterate, we do have an online crime reporting program that is also available through the RCMP app. Those are for minor, non-essential type of offenses. It's just something that's convenient. And last, our Watch Clerk program, again, continues to prove, all of them continues to prove their weight in gold. Despite some temporary resource shortages, they've been really stepping up and ensuring that our members can remain as visible as possible in the communities, not only within Strathmore, but our surrounding areas. So again, my thanks for the continued support and investment, valuable investment in community safety. And you'll see at the end of the report, our fiscal year-to-date calls for service, divided up between regular calls and our traffic-related incidents. It's the quick and streamlined version of it. I'm open to questions if there are any. But again, our crime trends are looking very positive, and we're hopeful that we can maintain them.
Thank you again for your presentation, Staff Sergeant. Are there any questions or comments from council? Councillor Wiley.
My 5-year-old daughter was one of the children who's blessed with Halloween candy from you, and she was convinced that was the greatest Halloween costume she'd ever seen, so thank you.
Very authentic.
Councillor Peterson.
Your Worship, my question is to administration, and I was just wondering how much of this or what portion of this, I mean, certainly through the agenda, everybody can get it, but in terms of our communications, do we promote some of this into our
excuse me, yes, through the chair, we do publicize, obviously, that all these council documents are open to the public, but we do monthly post the crime stats on our website, and I can share that with council.
Yeah, I just think that, this is something that all community, for reasons of, helping to do that education piece, would just be really great to even up our game in it, because it's just such a positive trend, and the education portion of it is clearly valuable.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. If there are no other questions, I just want to thank you again for the clarity of all the quarterly reports. They've been really good to go through, and I appreciate the understanding and the way they're presented to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship.
So at this time, we move to item 4.1, confirmation of the Committee of the Whole meeting minutes for February 14th, 2024. Councillor Wegener.
I move that Council adopt the February 14th, 2024 Committee of the Whole meetings as presented in Attachment 1.
Thank you. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for that. And we move now to item 5.1 business, service and service level policy number 1218 on page 26.
So good evening, Your Worship and members of council. So I'm pleased to be before you this evening to present the proposed service and service level policy. The town's corporate business plan currently includes an item to develop a service and service level inventory, an 80% beta version. This proposed policy provides a framework for the establishment of the service level inventory, while also outlining the review of the inventory by council on an annual basis as part of the budget process. This policy also provides a process for council to consider regarding any reviews of programs or services that they may wish to see going forward. If council passes a resolution regarding a review of a particular program or service, administration would prepare a report and return to council, outlining any resources that may be required to undertake the same, and ultimately report back to council with the outcomes. Administration is currently working on the service level inventory itself, and it will be brought forward and shared with council in advance of the 2025 budget. Tonight, we're looking for any feedback or changes that you may wish to see in regards to the proposed policy itself. And before we get into further debate, I just want to clarify one item. So under 2.2 sub B, it actually should read, ensure that the service and service level inventory is reviewed once every 3 years by administration. So that would be a more in-depth review versus the policy. The policy ultimately resides with council. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions from councillors for Kara?
I really don't. In fact, 2.2B was the only one I wondered, just any clarification at all. Everything else seemed really straightforward and clear to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wiley. I have no questions or comments either. I think it's really good so far. Councillor Peterson?
The only one, Your Worship, that I wondered about, and I don't have any issues regarding how it's laid out, but possibly when it's brought to council during the budget, 3.4, the timing for requests for additional resources, it might really be good, especially when you're new on council, to have some examples around this. Like, you know, what does it take if you are asked as a part of the senior leadership team to undertake some accountability for some piece of legislation or policy or process or action on it? You know, what really does that take? Because I think lots of times as a new councillor, you don't ever understand that domino effect that happens from an administrative perspective. So, you know, whether, just lining out process. So, you know, you ask the question, you go through your mayor, you go through your CAO, you ask the question, you can expect to get an answer back, you know, but it might take a month, you know, those kinds of things. It is the one that always gives us grief. And it's usually related to simply not understanding the fallout.
Thank you for that. CAO Scoble?
Through the chair, no, I was going to say noted. I mean, that would, be an external facing service level that, we would establish a standard for, response time, like acknowledgement and actual response. And then, of course, the trigger is if it's going to take a little bit longer, then it would come back to council for an admin inquiry. But that's something we would definitely build into the service level inventory. So.
Thank you for that. I think that's it. Thank you, Kara, for your presentation. We've moved now to item 6, question and answer period. No questions, no answers tonight. That's good. We move now to a motion for in camera to finish off the closed meeting agenda. Councillor Peterson.
Your Worship, I move that council move in camera at 7:03 p.m. To finish the items on the in camera agenda.
Thank you. You've all heard the question. You've all heard the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
And that motion is carried. We move now into in camera. Thank you.